afternoon, everybody.
Hello. You sound a little robotic. Want to try saying something again? Okay. Well, while Eddie fixes his mic, maybe I can get started. Welcome everyone to Osmosis updates from the lab. Hope everyone had a good time last week. I was not here. I was on vacation, which is the first vacation I took in a couple months. We had Kevin as a speaker. Give me a second. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up? Congratulations on your first vacation in years.
Not years, but a couple months. Probably maybe since Osmosis launch.
Nice.
Yeah. But Eddie's trying to join back up. Let me add him back up. How you been doing, Kevin?
I've been doing pretty well. I'm certainly anticipating with much excitement any news about Ion, which I've heard is one of the subjects today. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking for Jake. I don't know what Jake's Twitter is, how to invite him up, but maybe he'll request to be a speaker once he's ready.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I can just go ahead and start jumping in a little bit into some of the updates, and then we can invite up Jake, and I see Greg's here as well. There was some cool stuff that happened with Regen on Osmosis in this week, so maybe he can also talk a little bit about what's going on there. But yeah, so basically, just some quick. I'll just run through some of the updates that we have. Things are going pretty well with the we went through this big AMM refactor that generalized the AMMs. So that's the first step towards getting the stable swap integrated in the next upgrade, where the goal is we're going to have a basically the AMM module in the Cosmos in Osmosis was very special fit for the balancer style AMMs up until now, but now in this refactor we fixed a lot of the interfaces and stuff, so that way it'll be easy to plug in new AMMs, and then the stable swap will be the first for that. One thing to note though is that because of this refactor on the interfaces, a lot of the queries to the AMM, the RPC queries, will have changed formats. So anyone who is an integrator into Osmosis, whether it different front ends, we're already in touch with a lot of the primary front end providers like CosmWasm and Rango and things like that. But anyone else who has any sort of scripts or something, I don't know if people are running arbitrage bots, and who knows what people are running out there. Some of the interfaces will change, and so please check out the GitHub to see what on the PR for how the interfaces have the RPC queries have changed, so that way you're ready for the next upgrade. So once those go live, it doesn't break all of your integrations. So yeah, please check that out. And we have an integrators channel where on the Discord. So if you are someone who's building a new front end or interface or something, please reach out to us, so that way we can add you to the integrators channel, so you guys are up to date with any sort of changes that are being made, so you're ready for them in new upgrades. Um, some other stuff that we're working on is one thing that you know thing that kind of relates a little bit to just how like the listing process for new assets on Osmosis is that we're going to be creating a new site called um, well it'll be something like beta.osmosis.zone, or maybe it'll be like experimental.osmosis.zone or something like that. But basically the idea is that you know as new assets are being added, we're gonna go ahead and merge them directly to beta.osmosis.zone, and it'll be relatively permissionless to get something merged onto beta.osmosis.zone. So, um, you know, and then basically as things get so an example, so two reasons why we're sort of doing this. One is there's a we've talked a lot about like how we're very focused on like getting the a single canonical version of the bridge asset onto the primary osmosis front end, but at the same time osmosis should be as permissionless as possible, and we don't want certain um, we don't want like to block people from being able to use osmosis. So some of the other bridge providers do want to at least have some interface for them to be able to like show their assets and stuff. So we'll go ahead and merge some of them into the beta site, so that way there's still a way for people to access alternative bridge assets, while we can still focus on like providing good UX and around a single canonical version on the main site that is sort of public for everyone to use. It's also to deal with there's a slew of just with like things like Juno, CosmWasm, and stuff. It's becoming much easier for people to create tokens. Up until now, the process of creating a token on Cosmos has been pretty high. The barrier has been pretty high because you have to like launch a chain, which is usually a lot more work than most people are. That's a decent filter, but now it's quite easy for someone to just like one click launch a token on Juno or something, and we just having a little bit better filter of what we show on the primary front end. We want to make sure people are like well insulated from scams and the like. And so, yeah, basically, what we'll do is basically as if a token gets approved for Osmo incentives, that's when we'll move it from the beta site onto the primary site. So that way, governance sort of acts as a type of gateway to decide what gets shown on the primary site. So that's sort of one thing that's going to be happening. um, let's see. Other interesting things, for the Americans out there, tax season is coming up. So check out, if you haven't already, check out stake.tax. They have this system for folks to go ahead and like you drop in your osmosis address, and it will like generate a tax report for you. Well, it'll generate like it'll uh, find all of your transactions and everything, and it will export it into like a format that you can put easily into any of like the popular crypto tax softwares like Token Tax or Coinly or any of those. So check that out. Will be a lifesaver, I'm sure. Yeah, Kevin, what's up?
Yeah, so I had a question about this, the beta site for, the more, I guess, permissionless, like first instance of listing.
Mm-hmm.
So just from a user perspective, say a token, a new CW20 or what have you type of token launches on beta.osmosis.zone, and it has a liquidity pool that doesn't have incentives. Will it be listed in the in the stats page?
On the info.osmosis.zone.
Yeah.
Um, that is a good question. I would say Probably not. I think that we'll keep the info.osmosis.zone site uh, aligned with what's shown on the primary site.
Okay. I think that was my main question. There was something else about. Yeah. Oh, the other question was if they create a liquidity pool with this token. Yeah, I guess just wondering how it will, um, how that or if that will appear on the pools page, and could it be qualified for like external rewards or something as people are
Yeah.
hustling.
So basically, it'll show up on the main site, similar to how if you some tokens that haven't been like the metadata hasn't been added yet, so it'll show up as like IBC slash blah blah blah. Um, but when you go to the beta site, it will show up very cleanly. So this is basically we're kind of moving some of the onus onto some of the projects that haven't been moved to the app site to basically show people how to be like, hey, okay, if you want to get access to this token right now, you have to go use the beta site and use that asset. It's basically, uh, to be honest, this is actually quite sort of an experiment just to start with, where it's sort of just to it's a stopgap solution until the real solution long term is we want to build something similar to how token lists work on Uniswap, where there's one front end site and there's like these multiple token lists and you can like choose which ones you want to activate. So like when you go to Uniswap uh app right now, by default it has like the default token list that has only about like 40 to 50 tokens labeled, but then you can like add more tokens. You can like activate the compound token list, and that will
Right.
include all the C tokens. And so this is the only thing is that we're still working on the development of that. It's probably realistically going to be a few weeks to maybe probably over a month, to be honest. And so this is sort of meant as a stopgap solution until we have the more fleshed out version. So there might be some kinks that we'll be working out. So
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense when you come up with that comparison, because when I think of that now, when you select some of those lists, like when you try to add a token, it says like, "Are you sure you want to add this?"
yeah,
So it kind of uh, keeps your skin in the game, so you're aware.
yeah. Um, Josh, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add on to that.
No, I think you covered it really well, and yeah, I think this also kind of just helps us put more power in the hands of like Osmosis governance. One way to right now obviously it decides the incentives, but we'd like to ultimately these decision makings to have an impact on the UX and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction. Um, and yeah, it's a temporary solution, but I think it is the right temporary solution.
Yeah, it's also like we don't want to. When I say permissionless to to the beta site, we're still gonna verify that it's like you can't just create a new token and call it Atom or something, right? Because we'll still verify that kind of stuff, but it'll be we're not gonna make any value judgments on the token. It's the yeah, I think you guys get it.
I mean, it's tough because the word permissionless is so binary.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like it's permissionless ish, or like it's okay to have stages, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, or I don't know, I'm not sure, but I feel like I totally understand the logic behind it, and like what Josh said, like I think the governance control is important. Have people having a say in that the user experience. So yeah,
Yep.
I feel like there's a path.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Um. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that's those are sort of the main big two updates we wanted to share right now. Um, Everything else is just the generally pretty boring stuff of we're still working on Isotonic and working on just a stable swap, and the front end refactor is still coming along. Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer than was originally expected, but I think people are gonna really like it once it's live. So
we're gonna have a new landing page soon.
Oh, that's true. Yes, there's going to be a new landing page. So the current, when you go to, I think a lot of people maybe already just have app.osmosis.zone bookmarked and don't even go to the main landing page anymore. But soon there'll be like a lot more cool information and stuff where you can share it with your friends so they can actually learn what osmosis is rather than just a graphic and the word enter the lab. So so look out for the new landing page, which should be out in the next coming weeks as well. Greg, you want to maybe quickly talk about some of the governance proposals that are coming from the Regen community on osmosis? The carbon neutrality one that just passed, and the new one that's I don't know if it's live yet or is coming soon.
Yeah, definitely. Can you guys hear me okay? My audio coming in clear?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, Osmosians. It's super excited to report that Prop 176 passed, which was a proposal for osmosis to offset itself and kind of go above and beyond just a strict carbon neutrality, to be aiming for being climate positive and carbon negative as a protocol, which is awesome. So that got passed and it's being implemented. And there's another proposal I think is right on the way. I think I saw Johnny in the audience there, at least for a moment, which is about to be put up, I think, that's going to focus on the osmosis community pool purchasing NCT, the nature carbon ton, from Regen, and then matching the Regen tokens that osmosis community owns to be an initial liquidity provider with protocol owned liquidity to bootstrap the interchain carbon market. So we're really amped about that. I wanted to share a little update. We've been having a bunch of conversations. We were intending to have that proposal up kind of contemporaneous with the offset one. And then we started to dig in to realizing that we want to launch that liquidity pool. We want to wait to launch that liquidity pool until we can make sure that there's a bridge between the other on-chain carbon of the same standard, NCT, which exists over on Polygon, so that the whole community can participate in sourcing and moving both, tokenizing credits onto Regen Ledger and also moving credits from Polygon. Because otherwise we're realizing that there's going to be limited supply and potential, and there is organic demand even without turning incentives on, and we didn't want to artificially inflate the price of the token. And it's funny, we was talking with Johnny and Dave about this morning, and Johnny was mentioning that we have the opposite problem as many tokens launching, which want to create artificially constrained supply to maybe have influence on the price, and we're really wanting to make sure that the liquidity only goes live on osmosis when we have this market efficiency to make sure that 1 ton of carbon is as close to the same value in the off-chain market as the on-chain market as just a core piece. So we're just in the forum, we're amending that proposal to move forward with osmosis community purchasing the NCT right now, because there's pretty favorable prices for the NCT and we can help sort of facilitate that purchase. But we're suggesting that we wait to do the liquidity deployment until we have the bridge finalized so we have market efficiency. So that's kind of the update on the NCT. I mean, so expect to see that proposal go live. We're super stoked. I mean, being able to liquidity mine carbon as this real world asset as a pillar of the Cosmos Phi and Osmosis DEX is pretty exciting, and I think going to be pretty important moment. So yeah, I don't know if folks have questions or Sonny, if you want me to add any color, or if that about does it.
Yeah, that's really cool. So would this mean technically osmosis? Do you know if any other blockchain has done this before, like where they've offset their carbon emissions?
There are other blockchains that have done it, but not to my awareness with an on-chain carbon asset. So other blockchains have like purchased over the counter from off-chain markets and offset themselves. I think Osmosis is the first one to do it with a natively on-chain or a tokenized carbon asset. Osmosis, there's a bunch of other folks in the queue in the Cosmos ecosystem, but Osmosis, I believe, is the first one, sort of first IBC gang to offset. But there are a few other blockchains out there. I think Algorand and Celo have both sort of, and I believe it was basically the foundations purchasing on behalf. So as far as I know, Osmosis is like epic in so far as it's the only blockchain to, through its own governance at a protocol level, offset itself in exchange for its native token for a tokenized carbon credit.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super awesome. So everybody else has been like, "Oh, the foundation is going to go buy these on the market, and we'll say we'll make a press release or an announcement," but really with no community involvement.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. And then I guess the other question I had was, so this would the new proposal would be for a second purchase of carbon. Credits, right?
To
Because the
match
first
a
one is
purchase to match the Regen allocation that the Osmosis community has for launching a future liquidity pool of Regen and NCT. Yeah, so that's the next proposal.
Sweet, got it. Very cool.
Hey, can I ask a quick question of Greg?
Yeah. Sure.
Hey, so Greg, did you refer to the NCT as you call it like natural carbon ton?
The nature carbon ton.
Yeah. Nature. I just want to say I really like. I mean, before I thought we were calling it neutral, and I think nature carbon ton is just that's awesome. It's what it is.
Yeah. So the nature exactly. So the nature carbon ton is a collection of carbon credit methodologies from the Vera registry, and all of them are forest conservation, reforestation, soil. They're all nature-based solutions where there's monitoring taking place and pretty high threshold of quality assurance that 1 ton of carbon is represented in the nature carbon ton basket, right? And just a quick 101 for how this works. They're minted as individual sort of NFTs on Regen Ledger that are called eco credits. They get basketed using the basket module, which is the functionality we brought into Regen Ledger 3.0 to be able to turn it into sort of a one-to-one representation with that underlying collateral, that underlying NFT, essentially, to then turn into an IBC token, which can be brought over to Osmosis. The core utility of that nature carbon ton sort of is retirement, to count it as a retired offset, as an asset. It's a commodity. It's like wheat. The utility of wheat is baking bread, not just having the wheat. So this carbon commodity, to exercise that utility, you bring it back to Regen Ledger, you hit unbasket, and then you hit retire, and then it retires it onto Regen Ledger. So there's a relationship, sort of like this really cool multi-chain relationship with the asset and its utility in the ecosystem.
Awesome. That's great explanation.
Totally. Thanks for having me back up, folks. And so everybody should expect a proposal to go live today, I believe. And we'd love to bring, sort of protocol owned and then soon liquidity mining around these on-chain assets with the Osmosis community. We're super, super amped. So thanks, Sunny. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Josh. And And is Osmosians the right name for our community here?
That's a good question.
That should be the next official poll.
For that.
Yeah. They're like scientists.
I like scientists too. Scientists is cool.
Yeah. But couldn't you say Osmosian scientists? I mean,
yeah, Osmosian scientists. Yeah, We'll run this after the Bridge Wars.
Yeah, because I like Osbros, but it's obviously too gendered.
Cool. Thanks, Craig. What up?
Am I still robot-y, Sonny?
No, you're good now.
Oh, okay, awesome. So I invited Jake Kim, who's been leading the Ion DAO contract.
Hello. Nice to meet you. My name is Jake Kim. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jake.
My name is Jake.
Sorry, I think I accidentally clicked the button to mute everyone. Jake, can you unmute?
Okay. Yeah, I just made the Twitter account just for this, and I've been working through Ion DAO about 1 to 2 months right now, and the front end and the contract development is almost finished. So I asked community for an AMA, and rather than doing just a random AMA, I think coming out to the Twitter Spaces and communicate with the people would be better. So I volunteered to come out into the Twitter Spaces. And by the way, I'm currently in the I currently have COVID right now, so I might sound very kind of vague. So yeah, FYI.
Sorry to hear that, man.
So do I have to explain what is Ion and all these different other stuffs, or is someone going to ask me questions and I answer?
Maybe can you explain a little bit like what the Ion DAO is and like what the functionality of it is going to be?
So basically, Ion DAO is similar to any other DAOs in governance, so that you can stake Ion to this certain contract, and with the staked amount of Ion, you can be able to cast your vote, and also you can write proposal on that Ion. So it's basically a first decentralized application level governance on Osmosis blockchain.
Cool. And so people have to like stake their ions in order to be able to like vote, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any in the future? Would it be possible for people in the pool, like pool 2, to also be able to vote?
Oh yeah. Good question. This is the thing that actually one of the Telegram member pointed out, and I think it's a good point, because compared to the like other Osmosis or Layer 1 blockchain, they have an incentive to stake their tokens, where however in the Ion there's no incentive right now. So I think allowing LP tokens and other options would be a great call, but I think this thing should be decided from the governance side, not the initial stage.
Cool, makes sense. And so, because this is a CosmWasm contract, does that mean it's going to be able to the Ion DAO would be able to do like any transaction that any other normal account would be able to do? So would it be able to like, LP in pools and everything by itself?
Can you rephrase the question?
Would the Ion DAO basically be able to do the functionality of any normal account on Osmosis? So would it be able to do swaps and LP in the pool and do all that kind of stuff as well?
Oh yeah, sure. So basically, Ion DAO is a smart contract. So basically, you can be able to work as a external owned contract. So basically, you can delegate your tokens and etc. So currently Ion doesn't have a utility right now, but after ionized asset governance passes, then there will be more utility on to the Ion token. So at that standpoint, then there are going to be multiple and varieties of utilities through the Ion token.
Hey, I have a question about the staking.
Sure.
So when you stake Ion, is it the same parameters as staking Osmo in terms of on bonding period?
No. There's no unbonding period on this because as I mentioned earlier, there's no incentive, like economical incentive, if you stake it right now. But in the later wise, we can make the incentive structure if you stake on into the governance. But for now, there's no incentive for staking directly into the contract rather than just folding. So
Okay.
there's no onboarding period. Yes.
And my other question was: is there a cost to voting?
If you define cost as a actual that I pay, then no.
Nice.
Is there like a transaction fee for voting?
Of course, there's gonna be transaction fees, but it's gonna be less than like what you expect.
But would it need to be paid in Ion?
That's a tricky question and a good question. I currently it should be paid by via denominated via Osmo. Yeah.
Nice.
I had two quick questions. So have you thought about like what you could use the treasury funds for? Because there's a bunch of Ion that got clawed back, and also
Yeah.
go
So
ahead. Yeah.
no, finish your question, please.
Oh yeah, sure. And also, like, have you guys prepared any other proposals, like the lending, or is it just the DAO that's been in the works?
Okay, good question. So Sunny and I had a conversation back in the past, and we came up with the idea called ionized assets. And ionized assets is basically a synthetic asset protocol leveraging the Ion token. And since Ion has a limited token supply and no utility yet, we could add the utility by adding smart contract inside to the Ion. And then Ion can be used as a decentralized finance currency and help the Osmosis universe to in the longer standpoint. And in terms of utility, that's the thing that we are currently thinking of. And for the community pool that we have, I think there's a lot of options that we can actually think of, but I to be honest, I haven't thought it really quite deeply on insight, and would love to discuss more with the community people on how to use the tokens. Thanks.
Thank you.
One thing that maybe worth talking about as well, actually, not reminded me of it, which was related to just because when you were asking about the fees, was Josh. I want to maybe talk a little bit about the current spam attack going on Osmosis and how like the plans to mitigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hoping most of you guys didn't notice, but it started a few days ago where an account basically has been spamming one new Osmo unit, the Osmosis blockchain because we do have 0 fees for transfers, and it's been clogging up the blockchain a little bit, not to the level where it's not usable for the average user, but I think transactions are getting in a little bit slower than usual. So we knew this was going to happen going in. And to be honest, I think a lot of people within the team kind of was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe we got this long." But this basically led us to kind of starting the process of it's like, all right, now that we have spam attacks ongoing, how do we mitigate and kind of come up with a longer term solution around this? And so right now, I think we have two steps. One is more of a short-term process, and then one is a longer-term process that requires additional implementation. The first step is I think we are announcing, or very softly announcing, the end of the zero fee era for Osmosis. So right now, if you do a transaction on Osmosis, we as in Keplr defaults to a zero gas, right? And that's like the default that's set unless you specifically choose a high fee option, in which case you do pay for the transaction. And I think we are going to start moving away from this and starting putting the average as something with an actual Osmo fee. Obviously, the users should be able to still select zero fee, but depending on the status of the network and the amount of congestion that's going on, the transaction could fail or sit in the mempool, or just take a little bit longer. So this is, I think, like the first short-term solution, very easily manageable. And yeah, so I think that'll be that release will be coming out in the next few days. I believe we are ready to make the release and do that. Now, one of the so here's the rationale on why we wanted zero fees, and I think the primary reason behind that was for things like staking governance and trying to liquidity mine osmosis and things like that. I think it's you kind of already we assume you already have Osmo to do a lot of these actions. So I think that's less of a priority. But the main reason for zero fees was when the users first come into Osmosis to trade an asset. This isn't like ETH where all the assets are in the same blockchain. And we can assume that someone who has atoms that want to buy Osmosis, when they IBC transfer in their atoms, they aren't able to pay for that initial swap transaction because they don't have Osmo to pay for the fees. And that's just a very bad first impression of using Osmosis, right? So luckily, I think we right now already have this option where you can set the fee in Osmo, and you can still pay for transaction fees in a set of predefined tokens such as atoms and Regen, Akash, etc. So some of the kind of like the bigger ones. So I believe on chain, I don't know if it's live right now or if it's basically ready to go, but already have this feature built in. But moving forward, we are hoping to, alongside the token list feature, add a configurable, like a global configuration for Osmosis website where you choose like a preferred set of fees. The default setting will be auto. So let's assume you don't have Osmo tokens to pay for fees, but you have atoms. The front end should be able to figure out that, hey, you have atoms, so we'll just pay for this transaction fee in atoms. And then we'll go through and make sure that if you don't have atoms, then we'll check for something else and things like that. And ideally, this will solve the issue around someone who just brought in their asset, want to make their first trade, but they don't have Osmo, still be able to kind of experience a very seamless process around that. And the cool thing is, I believe we're coming up with a mechanism for, when these transaction fees accrue in different tokens. I think some form of an automated mechanism to convert them into Osmo and treat them as Osmo transaction fees as well. So yeah, those are kind of like the two, one short term and then one longer term solution that we're tackling this.
There's also some work being done. It's sort of a research-ish thing, but potentially allowing you to also use your swap fee on the AMM to also count towards like the transaction fee as well. So, but there's some like edge cases that we have to deal with around that. So we're sort of working through those as well.
Hey, Josh, I have a quick question about that multi-chain or interchain fee thing.
Go ahead.
So is it going to be like something like when you said that you could set, it would be set to auto, so it would just look in your wallet and see, oh, you don't have Osmo, but you have Atom, so it'll just somehow do like a behind the scenes like swap into Osmo.
Yeah, so basically what it will do is it'll actually pay your transaction fee in Atom, and instead of doing it automatically converting it to Osmo every time, because that would just make like every transaction would be like it's doing this would be doing a trade, which
Right.
is kind of expensive. What it will do is it'll accumulate all of the transaction fees, and then at the end of the so currently what it does is it accumulates all of them and it distributes them to stakers. So sometimes people might have noticed that like every now and then you'll just end up with like some tiny little bit of dust of another token when you claim rewards, and that's usually because someone decided to pay transaction fees in a different token, maybe like using the CLI or something.
Oh.
That's why that dust shows up every now and then. But what we'll do instead is we're going to make it so it accumulates all the fees in other tokens. And then every day at epoch time, it will sell all of those to buy Osmo and then distribute it as Osmo rewards or Osmo fees.
That's awesome. And my other question was, is this going to, because I think this seems to me like I've never heard of this on any other chain. And it kind of reminds me, I wonder what the implementation will be like, if it'll be like the way that when you go into a swap module, you can choose the, what's it called? Your, the fee aspect, how much slippage amount, like will there be something where you can, like, the way, like almost every swap module has like how much slippage are you okay with, like would it have something like that?
No, I don't think so. I think for fees, it's most of the amounts we expect are fairly minimal. So, what happens in the background, I assume, is um, it's a convert. So the fees, final fees that you're paying, no matter what the currency that you're paying in, will be denominated in Osmo. So, just for as an example, if I need to pay 0.1 Osmo for this transaction, it'll be 0.1 Osmo worth of atoms or other tokens at the current conversion rate. So
okay, yeah, that's way simpler.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Hey, do you guys mind? Can you hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Quick question regarding fees. So, are the Osmo going to be burned when you use them for transaction fees, or they're just going to be right? It's like there's a set of whitelisted IBC assets that can be used for transaction fees on the Osmosis chain. That will be those assets will be converted into Osmo, and then that Osmo will be burned, or it will just be where does that Osmo go? Or to validators?
Yeah, it'll get distributed to all stakers.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. And do you have an idea of the average daily transaction fees denominated in Osmo? What that number would be?
Currently, it would be very, very low because right now most people pay 0 transaction fees.
Right.
Which is what we're trying to mitigate now. So, I guess no, I don't know if we really have an estimate right now on how much that would be.
Got it. It's just a market-driven sort of transaction fee that the market will decide, or like what's the function used?
Yes, okay. So yeah, so what it would actually be right now is validators. So how Cosmos SDK works right now, which is definitely not the most optimal way of doing fees, but basically every validator sets a fee, like a min fee in their local config. So they put a min fee per gas unit, and every validator can have a different one. And what this will do is that, and that decides what the minimum fee they require in the blocks that they propose is. And so what will probably happen right now is we'll have some validators remain at 0 fees, and then some have higher fees, min fees, and that way, if you submit a transaction with a 0 fee, you'd have to wait much longer because you're only gonna get into a block from a validator that maintain the 0 fees. While if you do a higher transaction fee, you'll be more likely to be accepted by any validator. Long term, we'd want to switch this out for something more like EIP 1559, because I think that's probably the better design on how to do min fees properly. So instead of being on a per validator local basis, it'll be a more global parameter for all the validators.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's worth noting that right now it's not actually a market where it's not like most mempools and most blockchains. You pay a higher fee, you get higher priority in the mempool. Cosmos SDK currently it acts as a first in, first out, where it just checks does it meet the min fee, and then if so, it goes into a queue that it pulls from the front of the queue. So yeah, that's why the 1559 stuff is kind of important to solve some of the inefficiencies around the current design.
Hey, I actually had a question for Jake. I'm not sure if we covered this, but what have you worked on in the past?
Pardon?
Like, what other projects have you worked on in the past?
Oh, okay. At 2019, I won 2 times at the Cosmos Hackathon, and I founded a company called Everett, and Everett is the first Cosmos liquid staking protocol that we tried to build but failed. And the team built instead of building liquid staking protocol, built Keplr, and half of my team got acquired by Terra and built the Anchor protocol. And I left Terra and I founded a company called AlphaWorks. And AlphaWorks is an NFT studio in South Korea. And currently I'm working on 2 different NFT projects in South Korea.
I can
Yes.
also vouch for Jake as well, just because I know him personally. I've known him since 2019. So I used to help out with Everett, and obviously we started Keplr out of at kind of the end days of Everett. Another thing that's I think shipping very soon, within weeks, to Cosmos, that was kind of started out of Everett, was also interchain accounts when Tony, who's also one of the co-founders for Osmosis, used to work at Everett. And most recently, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed the dashboard updates to Keplr Wallet. And, besides Delvin within our team member at Keplr, was also helping out with Osmosis. 3 of the AlphaWorks team members helped contribute to make that happen. So yeah, that was the AlphaWorks team and Jake's team had a big part in making sure that Keplr's dashboard updates that recently shipped happened, and they're continuing to contribute to even more updates to that, alongside with Ion DAO and all the NFT work that they have going on. They have a pretty big team. How big is it right now, Jake?
We currently have 33 people in house.
Wow.
Jake, you said you're working on 2 NFT projects?
Yes. What are you're asking? What are those projects, right?
Well, I was thinking about that. Yeah.
What's your question there?
Yeah. I mean, can you tell us about them?
Okay. The one thing is the sports NFT project. So we currently have a Korean official pro IP rights in which are soccer, baseball, basketball, and volleyball. And we're creating NBA Top Shot style collectibles on Flow. And the second project is trying to renovate the creator economy. And we're currently collaborating with the Korean YouTube stars, which average they have more than 1 million subscribers. And we're creating NFTs with the YouTubers right now. Yes. Non-relevant to the Cosmos ecosystem, but so one day I want to migrate all these applications into Cosmos when they're ready.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think we would welcome that.
Cool.
Chris?
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking these questions on Ion. I've been following in the background and really interested in the project. A couple questions. One is just, could you explain or share a little more on like the roadmap in terms of timing or like what the next steps are for Ion? And then the second question is just around value drivers, appreciation of the token over time. Should we think about that as just like ionized assets, or are you thinking about more than that?
First of all, good question. And yeah, so for the Ion DAO, so it's kind of tricky for us because like we're not the actual core team, so it's very hard to decide whether if I have the able to do certain kind of things or not. So currently I've been sharing all the details to community, and we have finished development and we're ready to deploy. And as soon as when we deploy the Ion DAO contract, we will be able to vote on the ionized asset protocol, whether if community agrees or not. And if community agrees, then our team will be able to build ionized assets. We're thinking about within 3 months. And yeah, after that, I think we can move on to the next level. And also for the vision for the Ion is that, am I just thinking about the ionized assets? Is that it's kind of yes and no. And for the yes, I think ionized assets is just kind of big from the current standpoint as a roadmap. And for the no part, I'm thinking of actually making a real life app that people can be able to use that ionized assets application as a stock trading, like Robinhood. Yes, thanks.
Super cool. Is there anything that we can read about ionized assets a bit more, or is that kind of coming in the future? Because I'd just love to learn more about it.
If you go to Commonwealth, Ion Commonwealth, there's a proposal, so you can read.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep.
Hey Jake,
Sure.
I have a question. I feel like this is on a lot of people's minds. The issue of the supply cap. You know, there's 21,294 ions currently, or maybe a little bit less, whatever. So let's say it's that, and the notion is that with the ionized proposal that cap may be lifted, or is there any idea of when that might happen? Or
Oh, good question. So you're asking that the total supply can be changed, right? And when?
right, in the future, that's the
Yeah. When the ionized assets voting proceeds, then the total supply of ion will also change, which means that the total supply of the ion can always be differentiated whenever people tries to mint or redeem the assets through ISS or ion. And so if you're asking that, I don't know if the total supply can increase or decrease, but it's there's a high chance of the total supply increases, and if so, I'm thinking of like whether if we can able to make a system where people who stake ion can be a beneficiary that people when the total supply moves, then also the staking of the ion token holders can be able to get beneficiary.
Love that idea. Thank you. Oh, my other question about the Ion DAO, and this could be for Jake or really anybody. Do we have an idea of what like the first, I don't know, top 3 things or top 5 issues will be addressed once the DAO has governance?
I think I have. I currently have 3 in my mind. One is the rewarding proposal that I wrote and shared to the community, and the rewarding proposal includes the details about how much ions will be given to our team for in exchange of building the Ion DAO. And the second proposal is the staking denomination, which means is that I think most of the people will be less incentivized to stake just Ion token. So people might think of staking Ion LP tokens instead of just Ion. And the third would be the ionized assets protocol proposal.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. If anybody has other ones that they think are important, I would love to hear.
I mean, I'm interested by the app idea or the real world idea, the kind of Robin Hood-esque thing. That sounded really cool.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here, since Osmosis governance basically, has custody of the 16,000 ions. Maybe there can be some kind of like DAO to DAO agreement between Osmosis and Ion, where they can use that 16,000 ion for inflation so that they don't have to print new ones. But just an idea, it's a win-win for everybody.
Makes sense.
Let's do maybe one last question from Gazelle. Or not. Okay. Yeah. So to answer the last question though, basically there was a proposal that the Osmosis governance was going to transfer the ions in its custody to the Ion DAO. So that's sort of one of the main things that the Ion DAO would do now is it has all these ions that are worth, a lot of money on paper. And it can use these to like give incentives for like a new protocol, for example, such as Ionize. Yeah.
Right, and you won't have to inflate the supply and change the supply, at least for a while.
Yes, depending on what the problem. So if you take a look at the Ionize protocol, you'll see like the issue is on Ionize. You kind of do need to inflate the supply, just the way that Ionize works. But take a look at it. Feel free to leave comments on the Commonwealth. I think it's going to become there's a lot of discussion around it back in January, but I think there's going to be a lot more discussion again as it actually comes time to start voting on things.
Yeah, I'll definitely take part in that discussion. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Thank you all for joining this week. We'll see you all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank,
Bye.
thanks, Jake.
Yep.
Hope you feel better, Jake. Rest
Yeah,
up.
feel better, bud.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, Osmonauts and Osmosians.